Powered by the Montana Television Network. This is the 5:30 News on KAJ, Montana's news leader.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Don Fisher. Another snowy day in northwestern Montana with at least another half-inch or so of snow falling in Kalispell today. That's according to the National Weather Service, with 2 to 4 expected overnight. But the next weather trend is likely to bring colder temperatures. And for more on what you can expect for travel conditions as we close out the week, let's turn it over to Chief Meteorologist Erin Yost with a look at her first forecast. Erin?
Yeah, we're going to see another system move in overnight tonight into much of the day tomorrow. Along with it, some pretty windy conditions. So unfortunately, we are talking reduced visibilities and some blowing and drifting snow. At the same time, that colder air will move in, so dangerously low wind chill values will also be experienced. Right now, not a ton on the radar, but we do continue to see some light snow falling. That winter weather advisory remains in effect through 11 o'clock tomorrow night. Valley's looking at anywhere from 3 to 7 additional inches of snow. Yeah, the snow machine just cranking up recently. I've got more details coming up in your forecast.
All right, thanks, Aaron. With that, colder weather brings more into the region's homeless shelters. The Kalispell Samaritan House is one of the shelters in the Flathead Valley that provides a place to sleep and food for their occupants. Temperatures are expected to dip into the single digits this weekend, and director of the house, Chris Krager, said that they have been at full capacity or even over the last couple days already. And the shelter has begun setting up fold-away cots to try and create more living space for the homeless population seeking shelter. Krager says many organizations try to end all homelessness by a certain year, but he thinks the Samaritan House's approach is a little more realistic and effective.
We've sort of set our goal to make homelessness rare, brief, and non-recurring. And so collaborating with other organizations and trying to be more efficient at what we're doing, we're trying to create a way to address homelessness whenever it arises.
And in other news, it was a very special gift from Montana to Washington, D.C. The U.S. Capitol Christmas tree made the cross-country journey and arrived in early December. But what happens to it when Christmas is over? MTN's Nicole Miller found out.
3, 2, 1. Today!
Speaker Ryan and 11-year-old Ridley Brandmeier of Bozeman officially lit the Capitol Christmas tree back in early December. And while the countdown only took a few seconds, the build-up took decades.
This tree has literally grown in Montana for decades, and during brutal fire seasons, braving harsh winters, reaching the height of almost 80 feet, it probably provided shelter for bald eagles and shade for elk.
As a seedling, the Engelmann spruce was nourished in the rich soil of Montana's Kootenai National Forest.
This Christmas tree not only represents the strength of our holiday spirit, it represents the strengths of the nation and our great state of Montana. Take a moment, look up. It is no surprise that this tree came from the Treasure State. Folks from across Big Sky country came together to decorate it with handmade ornaments.
This isn't one of those Clark Griswold trees that you can put in the corner to hide the one blemishes.
Chris Savage is supervisor of the Kootenai National Forest. He says in the end, the tree will essentially be part of the Capitol grounds forever.
The fate in the end is that, you know, they're very conscientious about recycling and composting, and so a lot of the ornaments had to be made out of recycled material, and so what they'll do is they'll chop and chip up the tree and use it for mulch back on the Capitol grounds.
Reporting in Kalispell, Nicole Miller, MTN News.
And the tree was cut in November and traveled more than 2,000 miles, making a series of community stops along the way. A planned power outage is scheduled for Libby customers tomorrow, and the outage will start around 10 a.m. and will end around noon, impacting about 1,400 members along Highway 37 and Kootenai River Road. Upon the completion of the outage, Flathead Electric Cooperative says all members in Libby will experience a brief power outage that will last a few minutes before power is restored. The co-op says that these outages are necessary to perform maintenance at the Libby substation, and they thank members for their patience. The investigation into a box of human remains discovered earlier this fall in a Missoula shed continues. According to Missoula Police Information Officer Travis Welsh, interviews were conducted this week but did not lead to a suspect in any criminal event associated with the remains. A person of interest that police had identified reached out to the police department, and his interview does not reveal that he is a suspect in the case, Welsh says. The bones of 3 children under the age of 10 were discovered in late September in a shed in the 2100 block of West 12th Street South 12th Street West. The remains were sent to the University of North Texas, and Welsh says it could take 3 to 6 months for any identifying test results to be determined. And at one point, Michigan State Police reached out to the Missoula Police Department about the case, but Welsh says no other agencies have reached out to them at this point. Authorities in Spokane, Washington are on the lookout for a person who fatally shot a 59-year-old woman from Butte and injured another male earlier this week. Officials say Danette Kane, known by her family and friends as Dee, owned the Westview Manor apartments in the lower South Hill area where the shooting happened. Kane was actually supposed to be back on the road to Montana, but decided to stay one more night because of the heavy snow in the mountains. Alexa Block reports.
It was a chaotic scene Tuesday afternoon as Spokane police frantically searched for a suspected shooter. They were called to the Westview Manor apartments on West 10th Avenue around 3 o'clock. Police found 59-year-old Danette Kane shot to death on a stairwell and a man with a headshot wound in critical condition. Neighbors say Kane owned the building and the man managed the property. A day later, people who live in the quaint apartment building are still in shock.
Gathered together this morning and we all talked about what we knew, what we didn't know.
Jeremy Logan lives on the bottom floor. He says since he's lived here, he's gotten to know his landlord pretty well.
He was our friend. He wasn't just the guy that collected our rent money and fixed things. He was our friend. Everybody liked him. Everybody got along with him.
And that's how Kane is also described by the people who live in her building. For now, the people who live here hope to find solace in the friendships they've formed with their building owner and landlord.
I hope they find out who did it.
And the Spokane Police Department described the suspect as African American and between the ages of 25 and 35. The Spokane Police Department is requesting the assistance of the public to identify the suspect as either a male or female. Police said they do not know how or if the suspect knew the victims. If you have any information, please contact the Spokane Police Department by calling Crime Check at 509-456-2233. And the end of the year is almost here, and for a lot of people that means it's time to donate to nonprofits. But in this week's Fraud Watch, MTN's Mackenzie Frost explains how scammers try to take advantage of your generosity.
The year is winding down, and many have their sights set on donating to nonprofits. In fact, the Montana Office of Consumer Protection says 11% of all online donations come during the last 3 days of December, which means the end of the year is also a big target for scammers.
The scammer is posing as a legitimate nonprofit, or they're creating a fake website and a fake nonprofit and trying to steal money and personal information from the donor itself.
There are many options of donating, like giving to an endowment. The Montana Community Foundation says that's where they can help.
Individuals or businesses that pay any kind of income tax in the state of Montana can make a gift to a qualified endowment, which all of our endowments are qualified endowments, and then take not only a federal deduction, but a state tax credit.
To donate and get any credits or deductions for this tax season, it must be done soon.
Technically, the deadline for all gifts for this year's tax season is December 31st. But don't wait.
Scammers will likely call you and try to use high-pressure tactics to get you to give up your money or even personal information. But when in doubt,
trust your gut. Frankly, a lot of scammers out there make a lot of money with $10 gifts. So do your homework.
That homework means being proactive. Make a list of who you want to give to throughout the year and make a timeline. Request information, ask where the donations are going to go, and ask if the money raised is for a specific purpose.
So if they're able to gather that information, then they can make that educated decision if they want to donate or not.
In Helena, Mackenzie Frost, MTN News.
And more about what an endowment is and resources to find information about nonprofits can be found on our website, KAJ18.com. And as we count down to holiday travel, there's a new report on airports across the country. Insumary Trip Research ranks the most successful airports across the country. For the first time in 5 years, Hartsfield, Jackson, Atlanta claim the top spot with the most cancellations. That doesn't even include this week's power outages. Chicago O'Hare and Houston International came in second and third with cancellations. Fast food chain Jack in the Box is saying adios to the Mexican restaurant Qdoba. The restaurant has seen a serious downturn, blaming higher avocado prices, and an investment group will pay about $305 million for Qdoba. And with an estimated 11.2 million pounds of chips consumed on Super Bowl Sunday, seems like a good fit for Pringles to get in on the action. The snack giant will advertise for the first time during the next year's big game. They plan to reveal a new way to crunch their Pringles flavor stacking. And coming up, if you own luggage with a built-in tracking device or phone chargers, you won't be able to take that on a plane anytime soon. And if you have an older iPhone and think it's been running slower lately, you're probably right. Apple explains the reasons behind the problem that's been frustrating users.